Bonjour, hello, welcome to MaxMountainWorld. Bonjour, hello, and welcome to the Man Cave. As my YouTube channel was approaching 500 videos, I decided a few weeks ago to start sorting things out with it. I've deleted a load of stuff that wasn't doing well, stuff I didn't like, basically sorting out all the crap, and I ended up with just under 400 active videos. So I'm pretty sure that this one here is going to be my 400th video, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little review of my radio, the Yaesu FT450D. I've owned loads of other radios, ham radios, old valve transmitters, receivers, sideband radios, CBs, you name it, I've had it, I've used it, and all of that information, or most of that information, is on the description on my radio playlist on this YouTube channel. So I'll get straight into this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe what I use on the radio, what I don't use on the radio, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and at the end a little bit of an analysis based on me and my usage of it over the last year. So over to the radio. So to start off with, the display. I love this display. No colours, no fanciness, straightforward, basic, works fine. The side here is all the tuning stuff on the left. Signal meter, power meter below, and the power meter you can change very easily to your ALC for AM and FM use, and your SWR, which I've actually coordinated with an upmarket SWR meter that I have in line, and it's not a million miles away. It's great. So the other stuff I'll come across as I go over the buttons and things. The only thing I don't like about this is this busy, you know. When you turn a squelch up, I don't need to know that. It's a bit too CB-ish for me. The S meter seems to work on a very, very reactivity level, very good. It's not a lazy needle, it's not an overactive one. Also, the only exception to what I'm about to explain is this receive filter, which is permanently on. I quite like it, it looks nice. And with the lights down in the room here, you can see that all the buttons are lit up except for the knobs, but you don't really need them lit up. On to the controls. These controls over the side here, the 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't use them unless sometimes for things I'm in the main menu setting something up, but generally speaking I don't touch them. As the same with the keyer, I don't touch, and the A equals B, which is the VFO A and B, it puts them exactly the same. Don't really see the point of that. I'll come back to those last two in a minute. The right here, the meter button, you can use it with the function button to dim and not dim, brighten the display, but I don't see the point of that. You can across the left here as well, if you can see the right and left. Right, it changes from ALC readout, SWR readout, and the power out readout, which is all transmit functions. The S meter is the top line when you're actually receiving. The function button mainly refers to these 6 buttons. There's a few other shortcuts on it too, and if you press it, keep it depressed, then it takes you into the main menu. The only thing I use regularly for, as you can see, is adjusting the RF power, which it has a load of stuff. It's all set up. I've set it up for myself. I don't need to go into any further. It's too complicated. I might upset something I've already gone to the trouble of setting it up with. But click on that button and it alternates between the power out of 100 and down to 5 watts. And sometimes I do actually do some DXing on 11 meters on 5 watts. And usually I've got it set up to 90 watts, which is which I transmit with. I don't like really flat out the back end of it. I only had it at 100 there just for demonstration purposes. The tune button I very rarely use. I don't need to. I only transmit between 26 and 27,995 megahertz. Between them, my SWR and my aerial is below 1.3 throughout, and in the middle section of it, between about 26.8 and 27.8, the needle doesn't move on the meter at all. So I have no need to use it, but it is quite funky the way it works. I'll just stick it off the side here, make sure no one's there, and if you keep it pressed, and that's it, it's tuned 1-to-1. And until the next time I use it on another frequency, it will actually remember that setting, that tuner setting for that frequency, or there or thereabouts. Audio, hello. Band up, band down, speaks for itself. Goes through all the hand bands, plus any frequency you're on between the hand bands, it will remember. Also on each band, including this one, and set up differently for the second VFO, it will actually remember all the settings you've had for the tuner, not the items up here though. So the A to B, yeah, there we go. I tend to use VFO for my DXing. When I go up through the bands, I've got it tuned to things that are international noises, so I can actually scan what the actual DX is like on different frequencies and different wavelengths. So I can flick through, pick up all sorts of stuff, and I can tell from there what is likely to be happening further up the band where I transmit. Now, going back to B, that's where I do all my listening. I start off in the old 45 meter band that used to be active back in the 80s. Back in the 80s in Britain, if you transmitted on that for more than 20-30 minutes, you're guaranteed a knock at the door. But nowadays things have changed. So I start there, I finish there, and that way I know where I've left it. When I go up through the bands, I'm listening on to the hand bands, another hand band, another hand band. If I hear something, I'll generally speaking leave it running there. And you've got the old lock as well. I'll put it back up there. You've got the lock as well, which locks the channel selector and the VFO. So with cameras, with microphones, with notepads and pens and all sorts of things flying about, you don't affect anything by knocking anything by accident. Over to the left you have the fast button, which I have it most of the time in. When I'm using the selector as opposed to the VFO, it goes up in 5 kHz jumps, which is what happens on 11 meters. Sometimes you get 553 or 552 or 467 or whatever, but generally speaking it's there. And if I had my way, I would take that A equals B button away. It's useless. I would put the clarifier button there. I would have the mode up button with the mode button below, and I would have another knob here for the RF gain. But that's just me. So over to the knobs, AF gain, volume control. This you have the choice of either RF gain or squelch. It would be nice to have the two integrated, or like I just said, having a separate RF gain there and that. But that's how I've got it set up with it as a conventional squelch. Back to my CB and sidebander days sort of thing. Now across here, the multi-selector, that selects everything from your controls when you're setting up the menus to all sorts of things. It works on all the tuner functions as well. I'll come back to that in a second. We have a shift button here which shifts the center point of the frequency. Now I find it not really useful. I find that actually when you're playing around with this so much, it's dead easy to knock that off by accident. One downside, I suppose. The other thing as well is that I find that on upper sideband, just click it one to the left, on lower sideband, click it one to the right, and you get just that little bit extra nicer sound out of it. Just back to the select button as well. The reason I don't use the fast is because on the band that I'm in, you see it, no one in 11 meters uses 0.5s. It's very, very, very rare. So that I'm always got on fast. Sometimes when I'm shortwave listening on AMs, FMs, sideband or whatever, I do use it just out of convenience to get a very fine tune. But that again is quite rare. And just looking at this, the OCD side of me says that, like I was explaining before, doing away with that button and making that button into the clarifier, you see how that isn't strictly underneath the AGC. Now if that moved over a little bit and the mode button moved over a little bit, there is room for it, then that third button could go in on the left there. Another minor OCD factor as well is that you notice the side of the volume button, it actually has the red line on it to show in an instance notice where that is. The same with the squelch, and the same with this shift button too. Now if I press lock, I can freely turn this. You notice that the select button actually has that, but it's not painted red. Come on, Yaesu, you could have made a nicer thing than that. So on to the tuner controls now as well. AGC, the automatic gain control. As you can see on the right here, I've got it on slow. I use it like that all the time. If it's on fast, you can miss stuff. When you have stuff sort of waving in and out, when you have stuff just disappearing and no more and coming back in, you'll actually lose that. But with the AGC on slow, it'll tend to keep that for a second or two and you don't miss out on it. Now, onto the noise blanker. Probably the best thing in the radio, and certainly the best one I've come across in any radio I've ever owned or used. If I turn this up, and you'll hear it as well as see it, I keep it on permanently. Now my antenna is very near to the electric motor for a ventilation system in the building, and if I hit that off, watch what happens. Now imagine I didn't have that so well. Wow! It's just not there with the noise blanker on. One reason why I have the button on the right here in the squelch mode and not the RF gain mode is because you can more or less do that with the IPO attenuator. You can see on the right here it tells you what you're doing. Normally that is the radio standard. When IPO is off, then the preamp is on. Now I've seen someone do a YouTube video on these boxes and he's done it by the book. He keeps that on so that I don't know why. I use that, that's the best way to work it. I can attenuate signals if I want and increase with the volume. And you'll notice it's more of a smoother noise to listen to. It's not so much as a... See the difference, or hear the difference? Onto the digital receive processor here. This is where things get a wee bit complicated. But DSP, digital signal processor. Now, every time I leave the radio, I leave where I've been listening as it was best. When I'm on 11 meters, I always have the 11 meter set there. It's just, if it's all over the place or whatever, and I tune around with it, I like to come back to the same thing the next time I switch the radio on. Now, just to go up the top here, we've got the contour, which you activate by pressing that, and you can tune stuff sometimes if you have a weak signal. You can tune it slightly wider center or keep it pressed, and you're tuning the other end of the wave. And again, just a little bit or a big bit are off. Now going down to the notch, I don't use that. I'm not going to touch it now because there's no physical visual way of centering it when you're finished, and that, maybe it's my OCD again, but that's just something I don't like. I don't use it, don't touch it. Down here, the digital noise reduction, you can get rid of your background noise, or you can get rid of majority of the noise, and I tend to find it works best with just the 5 bars up there. You can switch it off with one click as well. down to the width. It's a 3-stage adjustment. You can hear the difference. That you can sometimes pull signals out of nothing by listening there, but it's very uncomfortable to listen to. Some ends of the band are there, some ends of the band are wider there, and it sounds nicer. I just use it as and when, but like I said before, I tend to flick around, and when I've finished, leave it there. The clarifier button is actually very good in this. No matter how you've got this set up, the clarifier button is actually a fine tune, and I tend to find that only really useful if I'm talking in a net where one person is slightly off frequency, and then it's dead easy to just flick from one back to straight, back to there, back to straight each time I'm listening to them if they are wildly off, and some of the CB users are when they're on sideband. Another OCD element of this box as well is, this is daft and tiny but I love it, is that when you've got the microphone, it's a standard microphone in this, I have no need for any others, the coil goes up where the coil stops, and the mic actually parks very neatly on one of the screws for the speaker. When it's actually sitting there, it sounds nicer because the sound actually comes off that towards me rather than going up the way. And I don't use an extension speaker, don't need to. The front end, as they call it, of this is absolutely fantastic. Another OCD element is I prefer that you went down to the lower sideband and up to the upper sideband, and it did the same on display. One boost as well is that the buttons actually feel luxury. They're a lovely touch, a lovely motion, just fantastic. And switching it on and off, it just makes such a beautiful noise. It's not just off, on, whatever. Listen to this. Off. Isn't that nice? So there we have my review of the Yaesu Fox Tango 450 Delta. More what it is for me. Other people would have other uses for it, and it's not top of the market. You can spend 5, 6, 7, 8,000 plus on a radio, and to me, no need. When you're using the tuning things, you don't have time to mess around with tuning because people are just talking for a few seconds and then you're writing down notes, and in my case playing around with cameras as well, and you just don't have time. You set it up so it works well, you use it, and you get used to using it and you know what your settings are after a while. So I bought this new a year ago. I had it specified to be opened out to general coverage transmit so I could use the 11 meters as well. Overall, I think it looks good. It certainly sounds good. As we used to say, the front end's nice on it. The front end sound is fantastic on it. I get amazing audio reports from it. When I'm using it, I don't shout into the mic, I don't hold it back there. I keep it about 6 inches from my face and I speak clearly into it. I get fantastic audio reports. And the other thing as well is, as I already said, the buttons and everything feels good. It's easy to use, convenient, and after you've learned it after the first couple of weeks, it's just such a magnificent toy. Coordinated with my tablet and the various programs for shortwave listening and ham radio listening and things. What a toy, fantastic. I really cannot fault it as such. If I was to give it a mark out of 10, definitely a 9.5. If I was related it to a car, you petrol heads might understand what I'm talking about here. If I was to say it was a car, I would say it is a AMG Mercedes A45S. Best hatch in the market. So that's my 400th active video on my YouTube channel. And I just want to say thanks very much for watching, thanks for the support as such. Don't forget you can like it down there, click on the old thumbs up, you can make comments, share it online, offline, with friends, whatever, And don't forget, you can subscribe down there. When you have subscribed, you can click the notification bell and you'll be alerted to when I put up future videos. Thanks once again for watching. Ciao.